Hi.
Hi. I just got my two holders.
Arey wow, congratulations. Very good.
Thank you, thank you.
And the nibs also, you have the nibs.
Yeah, I have the nibs. So what's happened to my?
I think
So exciting.
before you all get
Mm.
tempted to experiment on your own, I think next week I'll just start with the holders. I can imagine how tempting it would be. I wouldn't have been
Yeah.
able. I would have started.
Oh, I'm getting so excited just looking at them. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Welcome to a new addiction. Just when you
Oh
think
gosh.
that you have control, it sucks you up
Yeah.
into something else. Hi Ritika, hi Rida.
Hello everyone.
Rita, where do you stay in Thane?
Majiwada.
Where Majiwada?
It's in Thane only.
I know because I'm also in Majiwada. That's why I'm asking
You
you.
all could be in the same compound. That'd
Yeah,
be
That's
big.
yeah. That's why I'm wondering.
I thought you live in Pune, that's why.
No, are you in Lodha?
Yeah, Lodha Luxuria.
Which building? Look at that.
Fairfield
We're in the same compound. Fairfield, which
C. Fairfield C.
Fairfield C. Okay, I'm in Westgate A.
Oh! Small world.
I had a doubt, when she said she's an unschooler because I knew there was a family with children who are unschooling since I was in touch with a group of unschoolers. So, okay, I shall meet you sometime, Rida.
Yeah, sure.
You can start your own club there in Lodha.
Yeah.
Oh God, what a coincidence.
Yeah. I was
No, but
like, why is she asking like out of a sudden essay? I was like,
Oh
it's
God.
actually a good idea because I'm going to start an art club in Aung
Ah,
where I'm just going to be present at some place like I used to do first at LP in Bhandaka Road. Now
correct.
there's a
Yeah.
place closer to my house where I'm just going to go sit with my paints and my material, and whoever wants to come and chill some afternoon, they can just come and
Ah,
sit. It's free. Everybody just sits and chats and does their own painting. But you should start
ah.
it if you're in the same compound. You should just get some
Yeah.
people together. Hmm. And then
And
go
we've got
there.
nice space outside, where we
I'm
can sit and
sure, I'm sure we just don't do these kinds of activities, unfortunately. And everybody's ensconced in their own homes and are doing, everyone's doing interesting stuff, but
yeah.
don't do it together.
Oh
Do
God,
it.
what a coincidence.
yeah.
In Pune, it's even more intense like that. If you've stayed in Pune for 2 years, no more than that, you know everyone through one
Yeah,
person. So there's only one person between all of you, and it could be anywhere across the world. We have tested it out,
yeah, absolutely.
and
I've seen that with my sister. Like, anytime I come across anyone in Pune, I'm like, do you know them? And somehow she will know them from somewhere.
your sister, though she was in a nexus, na. With
Yeah.
Times of India, people end up knowing lots of people. I am such a hermit. I never worked in a corporate, so I don't really meet too many people, but still I'll end up knowing somebody
Yeah.
somewhere just because of the colleges, and there
Hmm.
is some kind of network that the colleges and the workforce form over here. It is so easy to connect with people. Okay, so this happy April Fool's Day. I hope you all are pranking someone or the other. So
Plans are afoot.
good, very nice. Please share pictures of your pranks, if even if they're not art related. I love April Fool's Day. It's I can't come up with pranks because I think I'm an empath, so I feel very bad for the person who is being pranked. But I've been the subject of many pranks, so it's all fun. Right. So this month we are going to attack nature. Another very fun topic. There's so much we can do. And because technically everywhere in the Northern Hemisphere, it's springtime, everything is blooming and there's flowers everywhere. Trees might start losing their leaves, but then that gives us an opportunity to collect leaves and study leaves also. So I'm not very I usually don't recommend plucking anything. If you need to, it's best to just go to the location, stand there and make your illustrations. And if not, then always look for pictures, or you can click your own picture, but try to not pluck anything. But do pick up stuff. If there's stuff that's on the ground, you can pick up leaves, flowers, seeds. So from now right up to the monsoon, it's all a wonderful variety of leaves and seeds and fruit and everything. So all of that comes under nature. But also next week we're also going to do animals, and we're going to do birds the week after that, and a little bit of sea life. So this month is all dedicated to everything nature. So back to watercolor after a whole month of relaxing. But again, this month, I'm going to encourage everyone to do a little bit of pencil sketching along with watercolor also, so that your hand is reasonably practiced. One second. All right. So one second. All right, we'll just wait a couple of minutes. Some more people are joining.
Ma'am, just give me one moment. I'll be right back. I'll just get some.
Okay, okay, not a problem.
Aditi ma'am, I just wanted to share that, like in our office, so because there are people from different countries, so I just tell them, okay, I will take that initiative to send everyone birthday wishes, and then like whatever we paint, so, flowers and all, so I take a picture and then I send it to them.
Ah, good. That's
So it's
very
like,
nice.
yeah, now I said, okay, I will. So they were like, okay, would you be manage? Would you be able to manage? I said, yeah, I will be able to manage every way, every birthday I can manage, no worries. So now
How
I've
nice.
started that. So
Very nice, very nice. Now, next thing for you to do is join the calligraphy also, because for their wishes, you can do all sorts of
yes,
lettering. Good, good. That's exactly how things have. This is how basically commercial art developed. It was somebody who could do something well, and they said, okay, can you do it for all of us? And eventually you can start saying that, okay, now you can pay me for it. Okay, let's see if Richa has. Okay, so while Richa is joining, I'll send you all pictures. Right. So today I want us to do a study on trees. So usually when we're doing, not just when doing landscapes, but often trees, apart from themselves being a subject, are a good embellishment for whatever painting you are making, with landscape or with even with say urban sketching. Sometimes it's nice to frame your picture with trees. It's always got a very nice, interesting structure. Plus, it's got flowers and leaves. The other thing is when you're doing animals or birds, this becomes a nice backdrop against which you can place your animal or bird. Now, what I've noticed is that uh, with tree structures, there is a lot of confusion. How do you draw? How do you create a structure that is pleasing to the eye? While we think that trees grow organically and any kind of lines anywhere might still work out, there is a certain balance that you should should achieve in good structured trees. So there are very simple rules about how to build that structure, and it is also an inbuilt scientific nature of the tree. So if you think about it, firstly, a tree grows in order to trap as much sunlight as it can. That is its purpose. And therefore, then you will see that everything grows after a point, after it's developed strength, it bifurcates and then bifurcates and then bifurcates further and further to fill in all the negative space around it, and negative space in a 3D format, if you can think about it. So when you're making branches, that is how, if you can make the branches in that particular direction to fill out those spaces, it will look like a much more organic looking tree. Uh, the things that we tend to miss out is where to make these junctions. So trees land up looking very static and very boring. So before I start, I want you to draw a tree like you normally draw a tree, and then I will show you how to draw it. A tree. It may not be the best tree, but a tree which has this thought behind it. And then you can compare the two, because I want you to figure out where how your thought process is when you are trying to draw a tree. Okay, so just take 2 minutes and draw a small tree, not too large, just in the maybe in the corner of the book, just about a little one like that, so that you can just tell the structure. And it can be any tree, huh? Okay, done? All right. Now, I'm not going to see your trees right now, but right next to that, you can try making a tree like I'm describing it. Tree. Later. All right, now this is how you can also try it. Normally, a tree is fairly wide at the base. I'm just going to make it this big, not too large. So it needs to be wide at the base. So you can start with a line that goes somewhat like this. And then we normally just end the tree pretty flat, but extend the bottom, just the ground. It could be the roots or the ground. So extend something at the base. Now, when you are making a fork over here, remember to just make 2 prongs. So you can pull out a line over here. Again, it's narrower on the outside and slightly thicker on the inside. So draw it very slowly. And as you keep growing this, you can keep adding more and more branches, but you can keep changing the angle. And of course, they're not smooth, so you can make the lines a little crooked as well. They don't have to all be straight lines out. So at every end of every tip, if you just grow this, and as you grow further and further, the line will start becoming thinner. And you fill out all the empty spaces. Now, at a point like this, you might be tempted to add something. There is a lot of negative space over here. So in that case, you can add another branch coming in another direction and fill up that space as well. So the trick is to not keep everything too even. To spread everything up a little bit, not keep things even. And in general, keep the canopy almost like something like this. And it's only because of the structure of, or the most conducive structure for a tree to grab light. This is pretty much 2-dimensional. We haven't made branches that go cross each other. So that is at a later stage. Now from here, you can grow more branches that go outward. And after a point, it's just a matter of filling out space. What you need to avoid is few things like making the lines straight. Then making branches which are like this, 3-pronged branches. That looks very unnatural. And then spaces in between. So these are very non-committal lines. The other problem is parallel lines. Don't draw parallel line branches. They are usually thicker on one side and thinner and tapering on the other. And another thing is also to avoid similar looking shapes. Now over here, you'll notice that all my right side branches are taller. See? That is now going to become a very monotonous design. So I can grow this one branch a little more. That changes the design a little bit. Okay. Then I can probably create something like that here as well. And then in between spaces also. So change the angles. If you have similar angles, you've got one branch doing this. Right next to it, don't have a branch doing the same thing. So repeating patterns. Freely change the angle. See now, the moment I changed a few of the angles, though it's the same thing, I have one left side growing and then the right side is shorter but more branches. Even if a slight change in angle is created, it still looks nice. And the other thing is ending a tree like that. A very static base. All right. Now that we have a tree, we are going to create the canopy. This is the basic structure. When you create a canopy, it is very tempting to, not tempting, I would say, but I found a problem in shaping of the canopy. So when you draw lines for the canopy, just observe this, don't draw it with me. Many times, there's this lazy line that people draw as canopy. So it's like a repeated structure. You might also do something like that. But they're not thought out. So what one ought to do is identify a place where you want to make the canopy. So I'm going to make the canopy somewhere over here. I want some of the branches to be seen, maybe not all. So just use your logic and you'll see that at the apexes of these branches, you are naturally going to have leaves. Now, when you're making these shapes, make the shapes big and small and unpredictable. So this line is not like a cartoon line. It's not a continuous. So this is like when you have a wave which has a particular, what's this called, frequency. It looks too regular. You don't want regular frequency. In fact, in nature, sometimes there are trees that have this almost regular frequency as a silhouette. And it looks so unnatural. I don't know about you all, but there is one tree which has a particular shape of leaf that I just cannot stand. I mean, it's okay, but a lot of people like it because it's got some very nice white flowers. Also, the shape that you're making, the overall silhouette, keep it unpredictable a little bit, but also to some extent expected. So a study of trees is a study of the following. You study shape, the overall shape and silhouette. And each tree has a different silhouette. A rain tree will have a spread out silhouette. We've studied this in school. Then we have color or colors and textures. So with just a few clever brush strokes, you can create a texture of a rain tree or of a palm tree or a temperate tree. And that is what we are studying with this. So every tree does not have just one green or one blue or one red. There are various colors that go in. Now you'll also notice that while I have made some shapes for where the canopy is growing, I've not made a silhouette on the inside around all those shapes. I've just kept those shapes, but I have made a few shapes on the inside where I'm showing that there are leaves, but then there are also some hollows. So now all of you have two trees, right? You have one tree that you've drawn before, and then this tree that you're drawing with me. I want you to color the first tree like you would normally color. And I want you to make color swatches of the colors that you use. I think we've done the trees module in 21 or yeah, so some of you might remember how this exercise was conducted. Those who were not part of that will, well, I guess you'll learn. Okay, I'm going to draw a standard tree that I think people end up drawing. Or maybe I'm imagining this and nobody draws trees like that anymore. And I think the coloring would be.
It's very hard to draw a rubbish tree, no? Once you know how to draw a better tree.
It is, yeah. You just, it's like A doorway is opened.
Like I know you're telling us this so that we understand it, learn it, but somehow I can't draw that basic tree again.
No.
Yeah, same.
Just can't. Like how can you do
Mine
it?
is not at all like what I had done 2 years ago.
Exactly. Exactly. You can't stoop that low.
No,
No, it's
it's fast.
it's not a tree anymore for you, I think. That is the thing.
Yeah. Even in a hurry, you can't do it any other way.
No.
You can make it better. You can
Yeah.
only make it.
So that's actually the best part, no? It's just a matter of informing that instead of this, do that, and the tree automatically starts looking more convincing or nicer. So I've just assumed that a novice's tree is going to look like this. So the colors that I've used are yellow ochre, burnt umber, and a combination of, I think this is your sap green and viridian. Okay, now the newer people, maybe you all can pay more attention, and the older people could paint with me. So our typical go-to is to grab at a brown for the, some kind of brown for the trunk, and some kind of green for the canopy. But here's the thing with the trees in nature, you rarely find any one green. There are so many greens and so many browns because of the texture of that particular part of the tree, and also how light falls and what time of day you are seeing the tree. So there are so many paintings by some artists like Monet, who has painted the same scene 16 different times, because they had to just at a different light, something else would be seen. So now with this in view, when you're painting something like this, try painting this without using any green or any brown. Because we are working with watercolor, we can create our greens using these 3 yellows and these 3 blues. You can also add, oh, sorry. Right, so you can just merge some greens like these, yellows with a blue, or you don't even have to create a separate shade. Just hydrate all these and use them in layers across your painting. So please, those who are unfamiliar with this, just have a look first. So I'm first applying a whole lot of yellow in places. And there's ample water, as you can see. And that yellow can also extend into the trunk. but I'm not painting it flat. I am literally using splotches of paint across my tree. And this is to create a sense of foliage. Now, if I then take whichever blue I have and I start adding that in the same kind of manner, add the blue from the bottom, not necessarily from the top, and merge it and spread it out. So what we want to avoid is making lines, obviously. But this color that gets created is a lot more vibrant, you'll notice, than whichever green you wanted to use. And I'm switching between colors also. Now remember, with watercolor, we have to make layers, no? So this is my first layer. And to this, I'm now going to add red and orange. So adding that to the brown, the blue, will automatically give me a brownish shade. A very ugly shade that we often try to avoid. But it is, in this context, it's very vibrant as compared to any of the browns that we might use. Plus, multiple colors will often give us a desirable texture of watercolor itself. So compare this to ready shades. And however unrealistic the colors may look, as a painting, this lands up looking a lot more attractive, which is what we want. Something compelling for the eye to stop and enjoy. Now, as the layers grow, you can keep making slightly smaller patches of color and also extending the color outward. Now, there is a study, through this study, you'll notice that it helps to put the darker shades at the bottom so that the canopy looks convincing. And maybe even closer to the branching. And there's some consistency in how you position the colors that make the tree look more believable. Okay, do you want to give it a shot?
What were the colors you used, Aditi?
I'm
Yeah, orange, red.
yeah. So it's all the yellows. Now my yellow is becoming greenish already. That's lemon yellow, gamboge, yellow ochre, the three blues. In fact, I've just used the blue that was in my palette. So that's cerulean, cobalt blue, and ultramarine. And then orange and red. So no greens and no browns. Okay, how's it looking? Any difference?
Mine looks okay.
Is it looking okay? Okay, good. Now, one more thing we can add is in all of these, just take a little bit of maybe blue or red or both, and you can add a sliver of a shadow. So on any one side, just pull the color down but not in a firm line like that, just a little bit on the bottom of some of the branches on the left or right side, not both, preferably. So this will start creating dimension. Eventually, you can also make some kind of texture like this on the branch. And you can take a little bit of this shade and create a shadow underneath it. So when you create the shadow of the tree, you can use a plain shadow like this, but also you can layer it and You can just make a few horizontal brush strokes so that it looks like the shadow of the canopy. Okay, are we done with this? Yeah, okay. So now the pictures that I've sent, we have some really large trees. Let me just share the images, share the screen. Here we have a very large, tall flowering tree. Then we have some conifers. Then we have some non-conifers but temperate trees. This is, I think, a willow. Another fir tree possibly. So many a time we can distinguish all these trees by their silhouette. So there is a proportion that you can instantly discern from these trees that make them one type or another. So what we can do is make very tiny illustration or illustrated studies of these trees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I want to show you how that also can be a very interesting illustration project. So in the space that we have here, you can create just the shape of that tree, because as much as it's good to study how to illustrate the whole tree, for the most part, where we goof up is the basic shape. So let's say I take this tall yellow tree first. Okay, I have to make 6. So I'll make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like this. So what I want you to study is the proportion. How tall is the canopy? And what is the shape of the canopy as compared to the trunk? So I'm drawing the canopy now, just the outside shape, silhouette as best as I can draw it. And you'll see that it is a little wider at the bottom. And then almost like 2 lollipops or cotton candy, yellow cotton candy. Then there are a few branches. And remember that continuity in branches is also important. So you can't draw one branch here and then the branch above very far or at a different angle. So these are the things to observe. And the branches, you'll notice, just stick out of certain cavities in the canopy. All these angles matter. For each tree, the angle of growth would be different. And now here I will have slightly wider. So my canopy is slightly bigger than my trunk, but I am counting my trunk from here, not from just here. So this becomes this shape. Now, if I were to go to the conifers, the shape of the conifer is different, and the silhouette has got a more spiky nature. And this instantly will change the look of the tree. So while you know that this tree is just a long isosceles triangle, avoid just making a triangle. Make the triangle with personality. Each of these leaf or prongs are distinctive of this species. Sometimes also trees have such a characteristic shape that especially if you are familiar with that tree, you will recognize the tree even in photographs. And you might think it's a lot of people, I think it's strange. Like you recognize people, there are some trees that you can recognize like that. Now, while this is flat, it won't look like our trees. So notice that there are some shapes that you can make within the silhouette also. And it's all just zigzag lines coming down. And making almost C-like shapes. So this is the kind of observation that's necessary. And now that you're comfortable with pencil, you'll notice how even with pencil, we can add a little bit of shadow in the right place. So while you're shading and drawing at the same time, you achieve a higher degree of accuracy, of observation and also of illustration. Now the next tree is a very big tree, but I'm going to make it small because I have just so much space. So here, now I'll make the canopy in the middle first. Remember to keep this, the edge, the line on the edge, very unpredictable. Don't make the same wobbly line throughout. If you're ever making trees out in nature, remember, if you don't like the shape of the tree, you can change it. Huh? You can play God or goddess. So this scribbling thing, I think I'm going to encourage all of you to do just a scribbling exercise. Are you finding the scribble difficult to make, an unpredictable scribble? Because that has been a problem with some of the students in the live class. Their hand doesn't move. So while people think that scribbling should come very easy, I had a problem also with scribbling. Okay, now that you may have drawn 2 or 3, try painting one of these. And you don't have to match the colors, you have to match the sense, like you have to match the vibrancy. So this is a green tree, right? But I'm going to paint it blue and green, blue and yellow. So this is cobalt blue. Oh no, what am I saying? Cerulean blue and lemon. And I'm just dropping in color. This is the top part of the canopy, which is nice and bright. The reason for this is because the tree makes it look like it's a very bright, sunny day. And if we are not able to convey that through our painting, then that is what will be missing. The tree will look like a tree, no doubt. But the sense it's trying to create will be diluted. As I come lower, I think I can add a little bit of gamboge to this mix. So it's important to let your brush glide very easily. And then you can deepen the color, maybe a little bit of cobalt blue. And enjoy these merges. I think I just have plain cobalt blue also in some place. So here I'm leaving part of the branch white, unpainted. I'm going to paint around it, maybe even a thinner brush. So distribute the shadows. Keep them very loosey-goosey. And again over here, though you think you know the tree well, keep looking at your reference image. It'll keep throwing some new information as you come closer to an area that you want to paint. Now, when it comes to sections like these, where you want to draw a little bit of the leaves, notice how the dark shapes or the shadows are looking. That will give you an idea of how to even hold the brush. So if you're going to make only lines like that, we just get one particular structure. But you'll notice that in this tree, the shadows are almost like horizontal patches. So play around with your brush a little bit and see what suits the structure of that tree. And for each tree, you can do something different. Now, finally, when you come to the branches, there are some branches which are also silhouetted here. Now, use a lightish brown color for these and pull them through from, it's like you paint the bottom of that branch so that the part on top, or top half looks like it is in highlight. And then extend that black or brown, sorry, beyond. So this is where you can create a dimension. If you paint this whole thing, it's a lost opportunity. Leave a little bit of that white visible. And here again, there's a shadow of the tree itself, and then you have highlights, and then there's a lawn. So the beauty of the tree is in all these shapes and colors. And its representation in as you're painting is definitely going to, it had better look different and more vibrant than the reference image that you have. And layer upon layer, you can then add more interest, more dark spaces. But at some point, just stop. So even if there are blank spaces, it's okay, let it be. Are you getting it? How's it going? Now with this textured tree, the fir tree, there's another way of illustrating trees also, which can be, again, fun. Just a combination of pencil art or pencil shading and watercolor. So here, because we create this texture, you can just splash a shade that you find is best suited. So I'm going to go with a little bit of cobalt, cerulean, and lemon yellow to create a bluish green shade, but it's not as dull. I could have added yellow ochre, but I choose to keep this a very nice vibrant shade. And in this case now, remember that you need to make the brush strokes a certain way so that it looks like things are spiky over here. So the brush strokes that we used for the large tree and the brush strokes we use for this tree are going to be very different. And that's the thing about painting trees, that you don't use the same flat painting method for all trees or any tree in general. The whole process of painting is very textural. So even though I have these dark patches, on the left-hand side, the tree has more highlights. So I'm not going to paint all over. I'm just going to keep them on the right. And then take a little bit of a deeper shade of cobalt blue and yellow ochre and drop in the shadows. So like we had with the drawing of the tree, take care that you're not making the same shape again. Like, don't do this dot, 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 dot thing. The moment you start seeing a predictable pattern coming, you need to change something. And those patterns come about only when you are finishing the artwork, not necessarily looking at the reference image. Again, we can use a nice red or yellow ochre mix for the trunk. Keep aside unpainted. And part of the color of the trunk can go into the leaves also. It does not look bad at all. And then we can extend this as, yeah, over grass. Like this. So these finishes are really important for trees. If you don't finish the base of the tree well, it looks very artificial and very sad, unfinished.
Aditi, can you just look at mine? I
Yeah.
don't think I'm getting it completely right.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look. What brush are you using, Varnika?
I'm using two. One is a 6 and one is a 3 size.
Are they the S68?
No, these are actually by Fine Art. These are these round brushes. I don't know if you can see.
They should work. Okay, they should work. Should be fine. These are nice brushes. Okay, let me just have a closer look at your painting. So this is, I think you're going well with the fir tree,
Okay.
and with the other tree, I'm just going to call it an elm. There is, it's the movement of the brush that I can see is an issue. So there's a lot of round movement. It's almost as if you're deliberately trying to color it with round movement. And it's possible that that is happening also while the paint is wet. You're making layer upon layer so that nothing gets time to sit and settle. So nothing wrong with that round movement, except instead of using the tip, which can be
Should use the-
one pressure and aggressive, try to see if you can spread it. So not doing this continuous, almost automated motion, spread it and allow the paint to sit in clumps in some places and spread out in some places. So can I just show you this yellow tree? That
Yeah.
should give you an idea. So the colors are just yellow and I would say yellow ochre, right? So we don't even have to go into changing these. So I'm mixing gamboge and a little bit of oh, sorry. So gamboge and a little bit of lemon yellow without the green. Because we still need some variation. So here's what I think you're doing is something like that. So you're actively painting every part of the tree. That's very normal. But what I'm encouraging you to do is just a few places. So even if you make the circular rounded stroke, don't make it one after the other, like you're trying to fill up that space with round strokes. I'm also making round strokes, but they're static and they're stopping. Now, halfway through this, I'm going to take the second color. This is also for the bright here. I'm going to merge it in, but without going over the strokes. I'm going to just drop it into some sections and also sometimes going outside of the line. This is also sometimes very scary. Can we go out? Should we go out? So this is like a base that I will make. And then I will come in with yellow ochre and I will add more shadows. This is too intense. So gamboge and yellow ochre. And at this point now, I will be very discerning about where I want to put this color and how much. I'm just tapping. I'm not even making any shapes. And depending upon the shape of the silhouette, you may hold the brush like this, because literally every brush stroke is making some kind of silhouette to indicate what tree it is. And if it's better, I will also hold the brush sideways like we did over here in this tree, the elm. And some places it's just a flat color, because then I'm going to make a branch running through it. And these edges can be sharp then. So the light strokes help you to make these shapes, the additional dots for texture of the edges of the tree. And you can see there are lots of blank spaces in my tree. I've not filled it fully, isn't it? So those blank spaces are also important to create a sense of fluffiness, not just a flat 2D structure. Now in this case, I can take, again, I can take a ultramarine blue. Just because I want us to experiment with using different kinds of unpredictable colors on trees, not the same old same.
But the yellows are still wet. It doesn't like they're all smudgy.
In some places they are wet, but I'm using a really dry, not very dry, but a very small brush. So there's very little paint. So it doesn't go into it. And there is some that has seeped in. And also I'm painting only from one side. So I managed to get a little highlight on the right side. And here again, I could just add a little bit of yellow ochre. Not even that works. So these white spaces, don't be scared of them. They look good. They look very organic.
Ma'am, can I show mine?
Yeah, one second, Rida. I'll just put an additional shadow on these.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Let's see, Rida.
think I'm also having the same problem.
Yeah, let me have a look. So these are very nice. When you write a storybook, you can make these illustrations. So they're not wrong or bad at the outset. How can we change it? So what I can see is that you're changing the strokes between trees. That is fine. I think that maybe your hand again might be a little too heavy when painting. So just keep
Yeah.
it very light. Just let your brush dance on the paper, and you'll see. Well, maybe as a rule, so like a strategy. If you have a tree, don't paint every part of the canopy in the first go. That is the rule. And then in every successive layer, start painting it when the earlier color has dried about 80%, not 100%, and can't be completely wet also. And paint in other areas in tonal gradation. So then the next layer will be a slightly darker layer, which again you will paint only in a few spots, and then you will paint the last or darker layer and stop at that. So half the time I think it's an exercise in stopping painting. In both your cases, I feel that you've probably thought that you could do a little more, and then it's just become too much.
Yeah.
Stop that. And secondly, also look at varying the color between layers by adding another supplementary shader. So in this case, the ready colors themselves were pretty good, and I did not want to use brown since we were just playing with the yellows and the reds and blues. But you're welcome to add a little bit of brown to the yellow eventually, or even blue, or any color that you think works better. It's the application that you need to work on. Keep the application soft and jumpy. Now, by no means is this the only layer you will make. So there are multiples. So depending upon the complexity of your illustration, you can keep going at it and make the leaves or the structure very, very complex. But before we finish, we still have another 10 minutes or 5 minutes. I want to address this painting of a palm, a coconut palm. So since we are in a tropical country and all of us are surrounded by some kind of palm or another, we need to know how to draw this. Here, a lot of times people get too confused by so many fronds on the palm. And we spend a lot of time in painting each and every frond, like almost like painting each hair on a human body. We don't have to do that. So in this particular case, all you have to do is notice the silhouette. Again, we go to the same rule. Notice the silhouette, draw the silhouette, and then paint a few lines coming out. And that is enough. So I'm going to show you this. I want you to just observe before you paint. So if I'm going to draw the palm tree here in this spot. So this is the shape of my trunk, more or less. And the trunk also looks blue in this light. And then the canopy is like this. This is the overall shape. I'm not going into this so much. Can you see it is not even, I don't even have to make more than this to indicate that this is a palm tree, right? Now, to paint it, the fat brush, let's see, I'm going to use a slightly fattish brush. Again, go with my yellows and blues. Start with just this The yellow and blue, I want to clarify, is only for today's experiment. You are welcome to use greens, huh? But all I'm saying is don't stick with just that one possibility. Use different colors as well. Now, once we have made this, I'm using a little bit of yellow ochre and the two blues also. So this is a little bit of brush manipulation where you press and then you pull down. So you don't really pull the whole shape. And then literally just make a few fronds like that. And this should indicate a coconut palm. This can't be any other tree. That's the point. So what we normally do is sit and make each and every one of these and try to make that look elegant. That will never look elegant because that structure is something you see in your head. You all see that in our heads. In reality, we just see the shape of that leaf, the large leaf in itself, a nice dark spot in the center, and then I'm going to use cobalt blue itself to make a line coming all the way down, and then use that blue to make a shadow on the right. And then, of course, a shadow in the sand. So in a bit, I could maybe make something like that and something like this. And of course, a texture. Drop in extra colors over there. So can you see this is not like making an embroidered, detailed illustration of the palm. It's very light. Okay, do you want to give it a shot? Just draw the silhouette of the palm at least. Now, before we finish, I also wanted to show you these trees, which I want you to use as for pencil sketching. The second and third tree. So look for some images which are fairly dramatic like that and try to recreate those shapes in pencil. So here you have a dramatic tree trunk. This is wet. So you can practice drawing the tree trunk also like that. This gives us a good practice of drawing shapes for trees. And this you can treat almost as an exercise in pencil shading. Lots of opportunity for shading in this. And this now can be textured. So no smooth lines or anything. You just go back and forth, creating a very rough texture for the now tree bark or tree trunks can be very dramatic. So I have shared two pictures, which if you do a Pinterest search, you'll find tons of them. Very dramatic looking tree trunks. The reason why those are good, one is that they provide ample sketching opportunity. The second is that you can understand branching and you can understand textures like the burls and the holes in wood. And that makes a tree trunk look very authentic. And these are things that we don't really think of because if you go back to your first tree, you probably haven't thought of putting a hole in the trunk of the tree. So those ideas come to us from sketching more of these dramatic tree trunks. And sketching is enough because you will have noticed that you will eventually get the color, but it's the structure that you might not remember. Okay?
Niti ma'am, I just have a question. Like when I'm trying to paint this one, so it's like first I do the green part, or uske baad mein when I come to the branch, so it looks like I'm not able to bring the branch like just merging with the tree. It looks quite odd that it's coming outside.
So,
So
yeah, the trick to that is before you make that branch or trunk, the trunk or branch even above, in some places it is fine to have a very stark contrasting color. It almost looks like it's stuck there. That's fine. But anytime the lower part of a branch or even the lower part of the trunk can be shaded, like almost as if, see, there's a shadow underneath this. So if anything is going to stick out, can you see that there's a shadow, right? At the top of my finger. Yeah. So if you make a little bit of shadow over there with the same color or with the blue, then automatically it looks like it is underneath whatever you have drawn right on top of it. Just a little bit. Now the shadow you make also, there should not be flat on horizontal. Make it at an angle or make it in a shape because then it should look like the part of the branches and those shapes are casting a shadow over there. But I'll show you in my pictures, there are a few which are sticking out, but they don't look bad as long as there are enough, there's balance between the two. So you have, see, this is sticking out quite badly. Yeah, but there is a little bit of brown here. So it looks like the end of or the bottom of this clump of flowers. Over here, Binda is merging also, but into a slightly darker part. Here it's sticking out. So In some places, even if it sticks out, it doesn't matter. Over here, though, I have ample shadow so that it looks convincing, and then our eye will see the picture in its whole entirety, and it won't feel so bad. Now, over here, I have a brown section which has merged into the bottom part of the green, so that makes it look less like it's sticking out. And here I have just made a shadow itself and then moved into a highlight, so that the coloring is itself just shadow. See, here again, it's a little dark because I've merged it into the green. So it's just a matter of adding a little bit of, and here it's not flat, see? So even though it's not dark, it is in like a W shape, this part. So it is sticking out, but it almost seems like a brighter portion of the flowers is sticking outward, and this whole thing is inside under shadow. Okay, any questions? So trees can be challenging, huh? If you want to do them properly. So take pictures. I have shared a lot of pictures also. Thumb rules, simple thumb rules are we have to just recreate the essence of the tree. We are not trying to make the real tree, so it does not have to be leaf by leaf by leaf by leaf identical. All right. With that in mind, get a sense of the silhouette of the tree. So look at proportions, just like everything else that we are drawing, whether it's a kettle or whether it's a kitten or whether it's a tree. So what are the basic shapes that you can easily see? The outlines need to be somewhat like this. The shape of the silhouette needs to be somewhat like what the tree is indicating. Like when we made the fir, the lines were all pointing downwards. If you make that on something like a birch or a rain tree, it gets confusing. So that is very vital. Once you get that, you can paint your tree purple also. It actually doesn't matter, honestly speaking. It's the shape, the silhouette, the structure. Those are important parts of the tree to study. Now, when it comes to coloring, I agree the coloring of trees can be a little challenging. It has always been challenging for me also because we are so used to creating flat washes. So our brush is constantly in contact with paper. We cannot paint trees like that. The whole point is that when you're painting a landscape, the backdrop is a wash and trees are like clumps of color in that backdrop. So your brush application, your paint application method has to be like it's like a tap dance. It has to be very tap, 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 swish, swirl, but not one after the other, stroke after another stroke. So that will take some practice. That's it. There is nothing more to it. All right? Yeah, yes, Rida.
I was wondering, actually, when you said we were doing trees today, I have like many images of trees. There's one pic on Dapoli where there's a big tree. I have many photos of big trees, so I was wondering if I could share them on the group.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to use them as a reference, they can use.
Definitely. That's always welcome. Please do. And post your pictures also. If you've already made paintings of those trees, you can put them.
Okay.
Wonderful. All right. So next week we are going to be doing animals. If you have any preferred animals, please share them with me. And homework for pencil sketching. I would like to continue or give you something to do with pencil sketching. Do trees. You can draw whole trees, just barks of trees, just the trunk and structure of the tree, anything. Or you can also draw leaves. Pick up leaves from your garden because now there will be some leaves falling, and or anywhere around, flowers which are falling, and try to sketch that only in pencil without color. So I'm hoping that I can give you an exercise in pencil sketching every week. And if you're up to it, keep a diary of pencil sketches. I want you to see your progress. So if you have a 50-page diary, starting today, it's the first of the month, you can make one sketch, even if you make one sketch a week, by the time your diary finishes in 52 weeks, you will see how much you progressed. All right. Okay, I shall catch you all next week then. Bye, everyone.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.